All right, well, good afternoon and welcome back from the break. We're here for our second panel. The first panel, as a reminder, was about modernization and optimization. This one is about creating tomorrow's business, so maybe a little more on the innovation side. And I want to thank you for coming back from break. We've already talked about why people are here, and it varies. You know, there's significant interest in our industry segment. There's lots of energy. There's curiosity. There are people looking for ways to improve, and it represents a clear opportunity. So I wanted to do some quick panel introductions today. But first, a little bit of a setup. We have Srini, and I'm going to let Srini introduce himself in just a minute. But Srini represents Munich Re, an appreciably larger organization than one of Dan's, Avenue. But Munich Re started similar to MMG a short 139 years ago in 1880. It's grown to $50 billion in revenues, 40,000 people around the globe. Not an operation you'd think would be embracing innovation and doing all kinds of things, but Srini's going to share just what. But the really exciting part of Munich Re is they were one of the original sponsors, I think, of this event some 4 years ago, kind of on the ground floor. Laser focus on developing exciting new solutions to expand the boundaries of insurance. So what we talked about really in the first part of this the workshop was modernizing and optimizing and creating some new. This is really, Srini's team is really focused completely on the future, but trying to do things to execute today. And then Dan Peet, also on our panel today. Dan's well known and often described as a serial tech entrepreneur. We'll have a little bit different, and an investor. He can trace his insurance starts back to his early days at Aon, I believe, but he'll tell you more about that. We'll get into more detail in a bit. Avenue, unlike maybe some of our panelists, Avenue is a company he's both founded and funded with his investors that's driving data to reinvent auto insurance for autonomous and semi-autonomous vehicles. So let's go to each one of them for their own introductions, a little bit about their role. I'm going to start with Srini.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm with Munich Re IT. We are a global IT organization. I've been with Munich Re for about 8 years now. My new role is to represent our digital and platform team in the US. So we are a global team, and I'm part of the team representing US. So before that, I've worked with AIG and other consulting roles, mostly focused on data and analytics. Over the past 8 years, my focus has been mostly insurance, P&C. That's about me.
Deal. Dan?
Wow, okay. So first, before I give my introduction, I just want to gauge my audience here for a second. How many of you work in insurance? And how many of you grew up saying, gosh, when I grow up, I want to be an insurance underwriter? Anyone? No? Yes? Oh, no? No? So neither did I, strangely enough. I know it's funny, I was just having lunch with the CEO of Aon Re, their reinsurance division, and his name's George. And George said, I didn't choose insurance. Insurance chose me. I feel like that's a line from a movie called Mall Cop 2, which I'm sure all of you have seen with Kevin James. It's a great movie.
Academy Award, I believe.
Yes. And two, probably every single one of your stories here as well, right? Insurance chose us. So this is like a support group for all of us who got chosen by insurance. And then all of a sudden something happened and InsurTech became kind of cool. I was here at the first conference that you all sponsored 4 years ago, and it was okay. And now this thing is a massive event, so we are super cool to be part of insurance, I guess. Like Ed said, I started my career at Aon. I actually was a philosophy major, so that was, I couldn't get a job. And, but I heard that if you sold insurance, you could make a lot of money. So that was how I ended up getting a job at Aon. By the time I was 25, I was one of the top salespeople in the world for Aon. And I had made a lot of money. So I said, what do I do now? I started investing my bonuses into startup companies, which my wife was absolutely annoyed because I was like, oh, look, I found this really great company that's building, something stupid, right? Just insert whatever stupid thing you could imagine. That was what I was investing in at the time. And we lost money on every single one of them except for one, which we made some money on. And all of a sudden, I had gone from Aon to Arthur J. Gallagher. I don't know if you're familiar with them. And I was now leading sales for one of the divisions. And I went into my boss, and I said, hey, do you know we don't have a CRM? And he said, yeah, well, you know, we have Excel spreadsheets, and you know, sometimes you can get them to email them to you, and they can tell you what they're working on. I said, well, we have hundreds of salespeople, and we don't have a single way of having any visibility into what they're working on. I found this burgeoning company over here. It's called Salesforce.com, right? And at the time, it was burgeoning. And I said, I would like to implement this in here. And so I spent years implementing Salesforce at a major insurance broker, and then realized, holy cow, innovation in insurance is almost impossible, because it was a major project just to get people to use a CRM, on a cloud-based CRM. Like no one could believe. They're like, oh, what do you mean it's not? We're not buying a whole system that's going to sit on our server. I mean, no one could process this. This is now, of course, 12 years ago, and here we are today in a very different world, as you know, and that's why I think that what we're doing here is so cool. I went from Gallagher, did my first startup called Hixme that was funded by Kleiner Perkins and Transamerica and all sorts of others. That was in the health tech space, health insurance tech space. And it was actually, we had hired a CEO for that company, and I decided I couldn't help myself, I had to start another one. And I'd already invested in Hippo and Carpe Data, and we're in 12 different companies that are a lot of insurtechs. And so I just thought, oh my goodness, cars are going to be driving themselves. It was just starting. And if you have a car driving itself, does that mean you have another insured in the car with you, driving? And I called my friend Mike Casanego, who had been general counsel at 21st Century Insurance, and then AIG bought them. He became general counsel of the personal lines division of AIG, which I figured at the time AIG was a pretty big company. He should know something about this. And I said, what do you think? He said, holy cow. Fast forward, about a month later, we started the company. So that is me. Consider yourself cool that you're part of insurance. And if you just question that, just look around, all these cool people. So here we are.
So Dana, one part I think you left out. So imagine coming home and telling your spouse, your wife, or your husband that you're going to invest all your savings in companies that have no operating history. And at the same time, you have 7 children. So.
Oh, yeah. We have a lot of kids.
Yeah. So, I mean.
My oldest is 15 and a half. She just got her learner's permit, and she said, Dad, I know auto insurance is expensive. I said, oh, yeah, it is. And I know cars are expensive. I said, no, honey, you're getting a minivan, and you're going to drive all your sisters and brothers around. It's going to be awesome.
So, but minivans are cool still, right? No?
I think not. They're as cool as insurance people are.
Maybe they're going to come back, too.
Yes.
All right, Srini, first question for you. Munich Re's been an innovation leader for years, obviously, being on the ground floor of the conference. You've been a key part of that effort for all of your 8 years, never worrying about the legacy stuff, but always on your front foot looking forward. Tell us a little bit about, with all the stakeholders, I think we've got 7 proof of concepts that we are completed or in progress with you guys all over the world. With all those stakeholders and such a broad global agenda, how does this soup get made? How does it actually work?
So something about that, right? Munich Re as a global organization has a variety of partners, client managers who are dealing with startups, who are dealing with their clients, MGAs, MGUs, and they are coming to us with various partnership opportunities. So as a global organization, I think we have a pretty good risk management capabilities, which enables the process to take over. So the process involves various parties, and IT is a party to that. So security, risk management, underwriting. I mean, if you go through the chain, IT is a part of that. So IT involvement is there, mostly from a due diligence perspective when these opportunities come along. So there's not a defined process how these partnerships get evolved. It depends on where the opportunity came from, because sometimes it's reinsurance bringing it, sometimes it's MGA coming in. So yeah.
How does it go from that initial idea? Do you come up with the initial idea? Is it in conjunction with, or does it come from everywhere? And how do you curate the idea and move it along? Because it's a massive place, obviously.
So I could speak from a perspective of IT, but we are part of this incubation process. So the way this works is, let me take an example. Maybe our PNC carrier company is working with one of the MGAs or MGUs, and the MGU has an idea that they want to incubate on, which is not the traditional product. So that's when the two-speed process comes into play. You got a traditional business that is still running, but you need to have that other channel where you now have to incubate. So what happens is the idea is presented to the board, and people are assigned to it. One of the first things IT helps out is to bring out. So we do something called customer discovery. So we follow the agile process, and that's where IT comes in. We do a customer discovery, and then people like me who have architecture experience get in, go through the due diligence of the process, what they're trying to do, and then we get to a point where we say, okay, you want to boil the ocean, but what exactly are we trying to validate? So that's where the hypothesis comes into play. Identify your hypothesis. What is the most minimum viable product that you want to go to market with? So we do that process. So we make the process very agile, and we try to incubate in a 3-month increments. So
and your business partner stays at the table with you.
Yeah. So we try to make the process faster, try to identify what does that minimum viable product look like, and try to validate or invalidate the hypothesis at the end of 3 months.
And just for perspective to stay on that, what would an example maybe of one of the proof of concepts that you're comfortable talking about? I mean, I realize some of them are.
Yeah, there are some proof of concepts that comes more recent, and this was an idea that IT brought to the table. We wanted to think about how could we sell insurance through a digital MGA, and the MGA happens to be an Alexa skill. So I know I was talking to Majesco folks that there's probably a presentation after this. So again, we've experimented that, and I think that's where we work with Majesco. I mean, one of the ideas, I mean, as you mentioned, there are many going on, but something that is very close to us, something that we have actually tested out in this summer, and we were able to kind of prove out how Majesco and Alexa can integrate. And that was like a 5-week process. Obviously, there was a lot of a lead up upfront, defining how you communicate with Alexa. What should be that user experience be like? So what we ended up proving is a multi-channel conversational UI that starts from Alexa, ends up with Majesco for a direct-to-consumer.
Wow, amazing. Dan, let's move to you. Lots of successes in investing, some that didn't go so well. You started with a thesis around Avenue. Maybe talk a little bit about the investment thesis and sort of how you go through that process now after maybe early days investing in a lot of things. You narrowed your focus and really lasered in.
Yeah. So I think what I learned and what we learned as an organization doing a number of investments over the years, probably now almost 20 years, is we look for 2 things. We look for a team that we believe could conquer any mountain, right? That it's the team that you would say, I would participate, I would follow that CEO or that founder or that, that whole team, and I would, even if they were trying to do something that sounded crazy, I would still follow them because I think they're amazing. And there's I've met lots of people and groups like that. But the other thing is they have to be doing something that is totally different than everyone else. I can't tell you how many times I've seen really cool ideas that 10 different people are working on or 10 different companies are working on. And in that situation, you're just in a horse race, and it's about who has the most money and the deepest pockets, and I can assure you it's not me. It's Srini. It's not me. And it's not me. It's not Dan Pete. So we're not going to win that horse race. And I've definitely met teams that are unbelievable. I mean, every single person on that team has the exact resume you would want. They are inspiring, they are intelligent, they are almost as smart as Srini, not as much smarter than me, and and you're just super impressed by them, but the idea is not that exciting idea. Or sometimes I did have one time that I almost broke that rule, and the idea was literally something that would win like a Nobel Peace Prize if it worked. And this person was a genius. I mean, they were a PhD, but literally this person would not be able to get out of their own way, and you would not want to follow them very far because they were going to fall into the ocean or something. So you have to have both of those things at the same time, I've found, and if they don't exist at the same time, and I look at hundreds of things, and I'll come up. In fact, Joe Schneider is sitting in the back of the audience there. He runs KPMG's insurance investment banking process, and right before I started Avenue, I called him and I said, I have this really great idea, and I know I'm being filmed and someone's going to steal this idea, but I'm just going to say it anyway. I said, Joe, do you know how many pirates in the South, in the African seas are just taking over ships and they're just turning them over, and these are huge claims against big insurance companies? And he's like, that's interesting, but I think the auto insurance thing's a better one. So, I think of hundreds of ideas before I start one too.
Well, let's stay on the ideas for just a minute, because everybody here is zeroed in on innovation as well. You always talk about startups and then the potential stage to pivot when it's not going well. What are some of your leading indicators of maybe we might have to shift left or right a little bit here?
Yeah, so I have sort of 3 F words that I use. Actually, maybe 4. No, 3 F words that I use. That you have to be fearless, you have to be flexible, and you have to be fun. Because if it's not fun, no one wants to do it. And when you're starting a company, a lot of times, and it's not dissimilar to working in innovation in a large company, there's the first moment where it's almost like being in a dark room and there's a bunch of furniture in the room and you got to find your way through the room. You have no idea you just have a premise. Like, we think that if a car is driving itself, that's a different risk than if you're driving it, right? Well, how the heck do we get that data? How are we going to underwrite it? The data doesn't exist. Can we get connection to the auto so that we can pull the data? And you just have no idea, right? Like, you don't even know if it's actually going to be cheaper. You haven't run any models to figure that out. So you're just feeling around the room. That's probably for most people the scariest part, because I think a lot of people like to have a very clear objective that they're marching towards. And this is where you have to be very fearless. What's going to happen is you're going to realize that the original plan is not going to work. I mean, once we started talking to large automakers and told them what our plan was after feeling around, we thought we found every chair in the room, and we'd start meeting with large automakers, and we realized that our plan, while it was cool to us, wasn't cool to them. So we had to be super flexible and change our plan and make it something different. We come back to them about 6 months later, and they said, oh, yeah, we would do that, and it was similar but different than what we had originally proposed. And but you have to listen to your customers, and if your customers aren't going to buy your product, I got news for you, you're in trouble. And so you better change your product or just stop the company. In this instance, we just changed our product slightly, and then be fun. Otherwise, it's boring.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. So, Srini, big or small, there's never enough time, never enough money, never enough talent to do everything on the list. Who sorts that list at your place? We've been working together for 2 years. It seems like things keep coming at you. There's a growing list of interest in proofs of concept. And
I think our entire group, you've probably met our team, we are innovation focused. We are part of the business technology group. And what we do is we are focused on digital transformation of insurance. At the same time, not focusing on the operational activities of today. So that is an advantage we have, but where we see ourselves is the future of insurance as the industry transforms, we are ready with it. So we are building a parallel ecosystem that will help Munich Re take the next leap. So with respect to that, I think when we look at this list that you're talking about, and you can probably see from the presence Munich Re has at this conference, we have pretty big, large number of people showing up at this event. But when you look at the details of who are showing up at InsurTech, you will see that there is a global presence. There are people from APAC here. There are people from Silicon Valley here. There are reinsurance division folks are here. PNC companies are here. And the idea is they are here to understand what their customers are looking for and support their customers. So I think these ideas are coming together, and we have, obviously as I talked about the risk management process, we do have a global innovation team that keeps track of this list and looks at it from a partnership perspective. And sometimes we look at startups that are here from an IT perspective, saying, okay, they got some niche capabilities that we should be partnering with them. So, so there is not one single list, but the list is all over the place. But because IT is a global organization, we share it. So it's a list of IT products that could be leveraged. There is a list that our innovation team has, where they're looking at partnerships. But at the same time, there is a viewpoint that comes from all of the various divisions, underwriting, IT, security. Everyone chips in and talk about what they think is good and bad in any partnership.
So we'll put you on the spot. You've been at it for 8 years. You're supposed to love all your children the same. You've had multiple proof of concept. What innovation that you can talk about are you most personally excited about? Because you're seeing a bunch.
I think one of the innovation the example here might not be related to Majesco. I know we have done a lot of innovation activities, but there is one particular innovation that I have been very closely associated with, and they actually have, they'll be at our coffee bar tomorrow. Maybe you should check it out. It's called Smart Mobility. What we do there is we take auto losses that any of our large let's take a towing company or a trucking company that has large auto losses. We run through this tool that we have built, which is a predictive analytic model. It spits out a score, and the score basically says how much of those losses can be reduced. And it was an idea that we helped the business take it to the market, and it was an incremental build. We had a very rough UI in the beginning. We wanted to gauge our customers. So definitely proud of it, being personally part of it in building it out. But yeah, you should check it out. They'll be at the coffee bar. There's another activity that Munich Re is presenting here, remote industries. It's using drone technology to assess losses. So yeah, talk to if you run into a Munich Re person, speak to them. There's a lot of cool technology stuff we're working on.
Thank you. All right, Dan, are we in the, what does InsurTech Connect look like in 5 years? Are there 12 people here or 62,000? And will we all be connected in the late innings, or are we just scratching the surface? What do you think?
Yeah, so I was actually thinking, as I was flying here, I was actually thinking about this. And anyone here ever been to RIMS? Okay, just a couple people. I actually think that RIMS and InsurTech Connect will either look similar eventually, or merge, or have to, or one of them will not make sense. Because anyone from InsurTech Connect in the room, it'll be RIMS, don't worry. But the reality is, as technology becomes more and more integrated so when I first did my first InsurTech startup, someone said, oh, you're an insurance play with a technology-enabled platform or something like that. I'm like, what? The technology and the insurance are so intertwined. In fact, the way I look at it, eventually, I think we're going to say this is a technology company that has this insurance financing mechanism in the background, is really what the insurance companies will be. So look out, RIMS.
How about you, Srini? What's it look like in 5 years as the foundational sponsor of the conference? Is it 3 times the size?
You keep repeating that, but yes. I think having been to here every year, I see the size of the conference obviously quadrupling. But at the same time, I see that, I remember the first conference where we were talking at the expo. Everyone had a little standing booth there, and all they had was a paper where they were putting in their ideas. What I'm seeing now is these ideas are much more mature. So it looks like we're going to see more and more of that. We'll probably have more insurtech partners here who the various carriers who are showing up can readily leverage their capabilities. So I think there's going to be more partnership. Definitely that's why Munich Re is here, to partner with all these insurtech companies.
Stay with you for the last question. So, I mean, it's been a privilege to be your partner the last couple of years and into the future. What do you expect from us, your partner, and all of your partners in your job curating sort of innovation, picking out minimum viable products, which ones will see the market, light of day in the market, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think definitely the capabilities of supporting open APIs is, especially, I'm purely speaking from a technology partnership perspective. Everyone is doing some sort of a digital transformation. For a partner who wants to work with Munich Re, I think one of the core things we look for is, do you have a story how you can integrate with a carrier like Munich Re? Do you have APIs that are built with the open API standards? Do you have an infrastructure that can support the scaling with a carrier like Munich Re? So yeah, I think we'll be looking at what they're bringing to the table that is niche, where we can capitalize on it. And the other thing is, are they mature enough with respect to, and this is purely from an IT perspective, right? There are, when you pose the same question to the business, I think their view might be different. They might be willing to invest in a company that's still not there, but they have the right team that can pull it off.
So Dan, similar question. You've sort of already voted by selecting us as the platform for your startup. We know that expectations come with that, so have at it.
Yeah, I mean, what's most important to us, we chose Majesco because we wanted to increase our speed to market. And, you know, we sat around, we looked at every platform, we thought about whether or not we could build this ourselves, and we realized that the fastest way to get into market was to work with Majesco and build our platform, you know, with yours. That being said, we have realized that we need, actually what I want to say is we realized that Majesco has the 3 F words that we're looking for. Fearless, we want to be in faster than, you know, so we're always pushing to say, can we do this even faster? I mean, that's the only thing that we have as an advantage, right? Is we're like a speedboat working against the Queen Mary here, sorry. and so that's our advantage, and Majesco's done well with that. We've needed you to be flexible, and you've been flexible with us, which has been really good. And generally, I find Ed pretty fun. So.
I wouldn't get that at home. I thank you for that. Appreciate
it. No
it.
problem.
So we're going to leave it there with the panel. I'd like you to please thank them for joining us up here. Appreciate it.
Awesome.